Ladies and gentlemen, here's Elvis Presley.
Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Elvis. My name is Daniel, and joining me today are my fellow hound dogs, Anthony and Shahbaz.
Wise men say,
you know, with Elvis, you gotta go a bit deeper. You gotta be ready to do kung fu.
What kung fu?
You gotta be like, oh,
thank you very much.
Yep. This is our review of Elvis. I just want to know.
Is that what we're doing?
That's what we are doing.
Okay.
Yes. Shay, how are you doing today?
You know, I'm doing great. We just left another movie that we are going to be talking about soon as well. But beyond that, it is a nice day. We've had a busy week. We're constantly talking to people. If you've been keeping an eye on our socials, something really cool happened with us as well that I know Daniel's going to bring up in a few minutes here, or seconds probably, because this is not like a 4-hour long video or review. But great.
As far as you know. As far as you know.
But you know what? To cap it off, I'm doing great.
I'm great. I'm glad to hear it. I'm great because you're great. Anthony, did you answer how you're doing?
No, because you didn't ask me.
I feel like I did ask. I feel like I asked you, and then Shay kept singing.
Oh
God! Stop. No.
Did you say Shay keep singing?
No,
kept singing.
How are you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing well.
I'm glad.
Doing well. I'm not going to talk about the weather.
Don't.
No more weather.
No more weather.
You always say that. You always say, I'm not going to talk about the weather.
And I won't talk about the weather.
Don't ever talk about it
I'm
again.
never talking about it.
We can't help but talk about the weather. I think that's also an Elvis song. I'm doing great. Shay alluded to it already. We've been having a pretty wild week here on the movie podcast.
Was Anthony done talking though?
Was he?
I think I'm done.
I think he's done. I'm calling.
Daniel called it.
I called it.
Damn.
If you leave that amount of space, if you leave like a millisecond of space,
Daniel's gonna pounce.
You better take a big deep breath before you start talking, because you got to get it out before you breathe. That's all I'm saying. We've had a crazy week here on the movie podcast, as Shay was alluding to earlier. It's been amazing. I mean, we started the week off with having Aman Vellani on the show, and then it kind of just snowballed from there, and we got to talk to Deborah Chow, who is the director of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got to talk to Hayden Christensen, also from the show Obi-Wan Kenobi. You may also know him as Darth Vader or Anakin Skywalker from the Star Wars films. It was a pretty amazing week. And then we also got to talk to them live on the red carpet. So if you're a fan of the movie podcast and you want to see all of our footage, all of our socials from that, please make sure you're following us on all social feeds at the movie podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd. You can catch all of our Obi-Wan Kenobi coverage there. You don't want to miss it. We had a blast, and just seeing them and talking to them in person was very surreal for us. And it was a huge milestone for us as a show, I think, which is pretty amazing. So,
yep.
The three of us are all still just like kind of reeling in from that event.
I'd say so.
What was your biggest takeaway from like just being on a red carpet event, Shay?
I think it's, you sometimes, especially when we see the red carpet events, it's always like rush, go, flashing lights, a lot of yelling. It was surprisingly calm. Like there was definitely an atmosphere of excitement, and that I loved, but I never felt like overwhelmed by people that were rushing me or anything like that. When we had that moment with Hayden, when we had that moment with Deborah, it really felt like it was just you two in that space talking.
It did, yeah, and that you feel it's an intimate environment, and you know, you see red carpets on TV and everything like that, and when you get to be part of it, it's really cool. Anthony, how about yourself?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting experience. You're connected to a bunch of well-known outlets next to you. You got like CTV for us in Canada, CBC, you have Collider, you have all these guys, and here we are, the movie podcast, and we're interviewing Deborah and we're interviewing Hayden, and it worked so smoothly for us. But yeah, like, again, it was a great experience. Hopefully we can keep doing it. I think, you know, TIFF would be the next big one for us if we can get on the red carpet at TIFF and connect with the superstars and movie creators from that world.
Oh yeah,
that'll be good. I mean, we'll just have to stay tuned for that.
Tiff, if you're listening,
hello Tiff.
You know what to do.
Hello, Mr. Tiff. Cameron Bailey, you're welcome on the show anytime if you want to talk about it. That'd be great.
To the movie podcast.
Oh, is that your Cameron Bailey?
Was that your C-Bales?
Is that your C-Bales or was that your Elvis Presley?
That was my C-bills.
Okay.
And Elvis Presley.
I like it. Like we said, this is our review of Elvis, but before we get to all of that, I already told you where to follow us, but I want to let you know, as always, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday, and watch out throughout the week for our review episodes, our interview episodes on all the latest movies and series. We already told you there's some already amazing episodes out on the feed for you to listen to right now. We have an even crazier summer ahead of us, so who knows where we're going to be. I also want to make sure that you check out our Alan Yang and Matt Hubbard interview, which will be going on the feed today if you're listening to this on June 24th. They are the creators of the show Loot, which stars Maya Rudolph, and we were very lucky to talk to them as well. So there's lots to listen to, lots of interviews. We're very tired here on the Movie Podcast, but we're very fulfilled and we're very happy, so please stay tuned for all of that. But today is all about Elvis. This film is directed by Baz Luhrmann, and it stars Austin Butler as Elvis Presley and Tom Hanks as Colonel Tom Parker. This film releases exclusively in theaters on Friday, June 24th, 2022 by Warner Brothers Pictures, and I want to say thank you to our friends at Warner Brothers Canada for inviting us to watch this film. Shay is going to tell you what it's all about.
A thoroughly cinematic drama, Elvis' story is seen through the prism of his complicated relationship with his enigmatic manager, Colonel Tom Parker. As told by Parker, the film delves into the complex dynamic between the two spanning over 20 years, from Presley's rise to fame to his unprecedented stardom against the backdrop of the evolving cultural landscape and loss of innocence in America. Central to that journey is one of the most significant and influential people in Elvis's life, Priscilla Presley.
Now, Elvis is a figure that I think when we think about music icons and music legends, Elvis is undoubtedly one of the top ones we think about. You know, we think about people like Michael Jackson, we think about like the Beatles, we think about like Mozart and Beethoven, and like we think of artists like that and musicians like that in that caliber. And Elvis is a landmark. Elvis is an icon. And I think that's where we're all kind of coming from now. We're all familiar with Elvis. We're all fans of Elvis's music. I think for myself, I remember when the Elvis Hits collection came out in 2002.
That gold album cover with the one on it.
Exactly. Like that was a cultural reset for me, hearing that, buying that CD. And obviously, like my parents knew who Elvis was and they were fans and the world knew, but discovering that as a kid, you felt like this is new. This is mine.
Did you dress up as Elvis growing up?
I feel like I try to model my hair after Elvis still too, because it's
everyone does.
I have the pompadour going on a little bit now, and
I think everyone in their life has done the Elvis dance.
Yeah.
The thank you very much. Just looking in the mirror, just kind of coming with that swagger that he had.
Yeah, he's just so cool.
The Uncle Jesse.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Like that's where I really kind of learned about Elvis.
Yeah.
Because it was Uncle Jesse growing up. He loved him so
Yeah.
much.
John Stamos.
I would see all these people impersonating Elvis. I'm like, what's this Elvis do? Who's this Elvis
Who's
guy?
this Elvis guy?
And then I did research and I would learn about him. My mom would talk about
I went to the library, my public library, to read books on it.
a book on Elvis for sure.
Then I realized I can't read, so I put it down.
But it's
what are these words?
What are the pictures?
It's funny seeing Elvis though, because like you even think of like references to him, like with all artists like of that caliber, there are so many things that are like, oh, this came from this person, or this song came from this artist. You don't realize. Like I always think of like Lilo and Stitch as well too, because
big.
the 20th anniversary was
big
this
Elvis
week.
movie.
But like he was like impersonated Elvis in it.
Yeah.
Right. So like you think about that, and now we're getting a movie of him. It's not the first movie that we've had of Elvis,
right?
But this is probably the biggest studio one that we've ever gone
also,
up till now.
Not the first Tom Hanks Elvis movie either. We got a little Elvis in Forrest Gump with Mr. Hanks.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had
by Kurt Russell.
The legs that were not.
He had the braces on his legs.
Braces on his legs,
and then
yeah.
He broke through them with the wiggle.
Yeah.
The wiggle. That's what they call it, right? The wiggle.
Yeah.
Elvis's
The
wiggle.
Yeah.
It's also funny too that Quentin Tarantino played an Elvis impersonator on an episode of Golden Girls.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that actually.
But he also wrote his character that I think what Brad Pitt played in True Romance.
Yeah.
Was it Brad Pitt?
He was Brad Pitt in True
It was
Romance.
like an Elvis
Character?
type of character that was off screen.
Right.
His dad is very. If you ever
No,
see
Brad Pitt didn't play Elvis in that. Brad Pitt is in True Romance, but he didn't play Elvis.
But who plays the Elvis, like the guy?
I think it's just, I don't know who
was it
plays
Christian
it.
Slater?
No, Christian Slater is the main guy.
No, but
main
like,
guy.
did he have like an Elvis like persona?
I can't remember right now.
Yeah, it was like this Elvis dude that's kind of like gives him wisdom in a sense.
Okay.
But like if you ever look at Quentin Tarantino's dad, he looks like
It's Elvis.
and out like that type of person from that era.
But even if you look at Quentin Tarantino, like there's a face that's like, oh,
Val Kilmer.
You're right. It's Val Kilmer.
Val
Well, I was literally about this. I was about
Val
to, you
Kilmer.
you saw it on my lips. I was like,
no, it's not. It's not Brad Pitt. It's Val Kilmer.
which makes sense because directed by Tony Scott. Tony
Yep.
Scott did Top Gun with Val
Gun,
Kilmer, right?
yep.
Anthony, I
What
want
were
you
we
to
talking about today?
We were talking about Elvis, right?
Elvis.
Val Kilmer. Anthony, please start us off with your first reaction to Elvis, and what were your thoughts going into this movie?
yeah, approaching Elvis, like the first trailer.
That sounds like a documentary, by the way. Approaching Elvis.
When I approached Elvis, it was the first trailer really got me hooked. I think that trailer was so cinematic and it created an experience for me in terms of Baz Luhrmann's type of directing,
Yeah.
as well as the music and the score, and then Austin Butler playing the character. It just fits so well. And I remember sharing it to everyone. I'm like, damn, this is a fucking great trailer.
Oh, okay.
I remember saying that
Spicy,
word.
yeah.
I remember that too.
But when I went
Warner Brothers is great at trailers.
Oh my
Like Warner
God,
Brothers
yeah.
are probably the king of trailers.
They're the best for trailers.
You know, like the
100%.
trailers that come out of Warner Brothers are always like
Top shelf.
top notch.
But going into this movie, I approached it as not as a critic, but as a filmmaker, because I knew Baz Luhrmann was going to be very eccentric with his storytelling, his way of making this his. And you really see it in the first sequence of this movie, where it almost has like this Christmas Carol, Lemony Snicket's, let me tell you a tale of Elvis Presley and how I didn't kill him. I didn't kill Elvis. And this is Tom Hanks's character, the Colonel, portraying this good guy, bad guy, and he has this heart attack and he's going through casinos and it's
Like almost like in a dream sequence type thing. Yeah.
It's very fairy tale like.
Very
You're saying.
acid trip, fever dream.
exactly
Yeah.
Casino.
the roulette table going
Yeah.
around, and it's like, holy shit, like this is so creative. Like to think that a filmmaker thought of this sequence and even to tell his story like this is it's wild because it's just everywhere, but it's well told. It's not like, oh, this is cheesy, this is stupid, this doesn't make sense. This is actually really well done. I didn't expect it to be a sequence where I thought I would actually connect with. And the storytelling and the pacing of this movie from that point on was really high octane in a sense. Like it was very Elvis. It was that wiggle, that jolt of electricity that came out of his
Elvis
hips.
the pelvis. Yeah.
Elvis the pelvis. And this movie was absolutely electrifying. I loved the film. I think Austin Butler was fantastic. He embodied this character. And you see Elvis at his youngest age, and Austin Butler, he has the boyish look to Elvis, and then you see him older, and you can see his face has changed, but he's still playing this character, and how
It's the eyes.
how he evolved from that 50s Elvis to now the 60s and 70s Elvis. The music score for this movie is so well done because it includes Elvis's tracks, but it also has these modern
like reimaginings.
Right.
of Elvis tracks. So it's a little bit of hip hop included.
Very much reminiscent of The Great Gatsby. What we do with The Great Gatsby,
and
right?
it drips cool. This movie like drips cool. Like everything is it feels like a commercial. Like the way Baz Luhrmann shoots Austin Butler is like very commercialized, but it works because Elvis is a cool fucking dude.
Yeah.
Like he's a dope guy, and Baz Luhrmann wanted you to know that he was cool. Whatever he did was wicked, and it was sick, and it was amazing. And I thought, like, if I was making a movie, I would love to make it like this. This is how I would make a film because it takes today's Gen Z vibe, but it also mixes it and merges it with that 50s and 60s, and it creates like this wicked story. Like it's just fantastic. Everything about it. Again, I didn't know much about Elvis other than his music, and then he died, and he put on weight, and he would sweat a lot when he did his performances. But I didn't know how like talented he was when it came to just being the person outside the
guy on
music,
stage, right?
The guy on stage, and how he had this weird connection with his mom. Like I know, like they've talked about it, but like just to see it's just a very weird connection. But Priscilla Presley, how he was in love with her, and how he embraced a culture of music from a different culture because he grew up in that culture, and how he kind of like hybrided that
Yeah.
in that time.
Yeah, like with black culture and black gospel music and just
Exactly.
and black artists like Elvis. Like this movie does not hide where Elvis grew up. He grew up with his inspirations. The people he grew up with. I mean, that's very evident in this movie, and Baz shows that. And I think you need to show that because it's clear Elvis loved gospel music, and this is the part of the world where this comes from.
Yeah.
And you embrace that, and you celebrate that, and you elevate that with that community. And I think that like the black community was seemed very supportive in the movie. Again, at that time, I don't know what the feeling towards him was, but when you see like B.B. King and Little Richard and Elvis at that time, you think of like just these are icons of music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That seemed like they wanted to celebrate each other.
Exactly. There's points in this film where you learn about how his dancing invoked, emotional reaction from women to the point of like they're about to orgasm.
Right.
But you have to think about like that was so new to them.
Revolutionary.
It was revolutionary. Like there's that sequence. You might have seen the clip or you might have seen the trailer where he starts singing at that
It's a hayride.
hayride.
Yeah.
And the girls are like, they see it, but then he starts wiggling his hips and they have this electric guitar riff.
Yeah.
And they're all freaking. And like this girl doesn't even know what to do. She's chewing her nails. She's like looking like
It's like frantic.
Yeah.
And she's like, and Tom Hanks's character, even Tom Hanks's character being a little interesting, but like him even being the narrator of the story and watching it from the outside and how people were reacting to him, I like that perspective. But yeah, like he almost went to jail because he was portraying a black man's dance as a white man. That's so fucked up. Like,
it is.
That wasn't not long ago.
It's not. This is still within the last
less than 100 years.
You know what I mean?
100 years.
It's like 50 years, really.
Yeah.
Like 50 to 60 years, and it's so scary that it's just like when you think of like this, you see it in the film as well too. Like the success of Elvis, they're like, hold on, he sounds like he's a black man, but he's white, so we could market him.
Yeah.
And like it's just so crazy that like we're not far removed from that. And that's so wild. That sequence you're talking about though, and they're just literally just start bursting out screaming.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like when like the movie Pleasantville, like when these people, when they're all in black and white and the world starts turning to color.
Yeah.
And they're just like, they are seeing something they've never seen before. They're experiencing something, and now they've reached enlightenment. You know what I mean? Like that's what it feels right.
Yes.
Like, right?
And we've seen it with Michael Jackson and the Beatles, but he was like the first to invoke it.
Yeah,
like,
and I think with the fandom
emotion.
as well too, right? Like when you think of the merchandise and the fandom, Elvis is one of those originators of that, right? Like selling yourself, selling your brand, selling all of that, right?
Yeah.
I think you get Baz Luhrmann for a movie like this, and you know what to expect. You're going to get a movie that's stylish as hell. You're going to get a movie that's beautiful. There was a moment in this movie that literally my watch was just like, "Hey, is your heart rate okay?" Just because like it was just like this movie is a shot of adrenaline, and like you're just on the ride and you love it and you're just going on this ride. And Austin Butler is so good, and Tom Hanks, his performance is a little wonky sometimes, but I think it's serviceable, and it never took away from the movie for me that much. The only time it felt like it was taking away is when Austin Butler wasn't on screen. You know what I mean? Because he is so good in this movie. He's just so he becomes Elvis, and he does a rare thing where he's a chameleon in that role. When you see Austin Butler, you're seeing Elvis, and you believe that. And I think that's really special. And it reminded me a lot when you see Walk the Line. And I was watching Walk the Line, and I didn't see Joaquin Phoenix. I saw Johnny Cash. And that's a very amazing thing to do, to fall into these iconic roles and not see the actor, but see the musician that you love. Shay, please jump in here with your thoughts.
Yeah, listening to you guys talk about it again right now is getting me excited to watch this movie again. And I think that's kind of where I'm at with this film, where I had so much fun. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but I could at the same time, because Baz Luhrmann, really has that eye. He has that vision to make everything, like you were saying, Anthony, this commercialized look that works. It absolutely works for this movie. is engaging from start to finish. This movie is completely electrifying, and it carries it forward through every scene. And that's because Austin Butler is so good as Elvis. He not only looks like Elvis, but he has everything nailed down. At a certain point, I'm like, I actually don't know. Did he sing the songs? Do we know?
There were some songs that he did sing. That song was like, "Are you looking for trouble?"
That's amazing.
That's him.
Amazing.
You're like, oh, that's Austin Butler.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's even scenes where, when Elvis became a movie star, they, I guess, recreated it, and it was so good. At a certain point, I'm like, oh, is this a deep fake? Like, are they just taking his face and putting it on it?
I feel like there were moments where they may have
just inserted him.
They may have inserted maybe a look or thing, or I'm like, oh, maybe they shot this, or maybe they're using footage and you don't really know. But yeah, there's a style too when they're introducing like kind of like the Presley family and everyone who's surrounding it. It's almost like a TV show opening.
Yeah,
it's like, this is what you want with Baz Luhrmann. You know exactly what you're going to get in the sense of this guy is going to bring his style.
Yeah.
And you want his style. And it's so, like Anthony said, you're approaching this as a filmmaker because you're looking at this like, he's the only guy who tells movies this way.
Yes.
And that's what's so cool about that is that, in the hands of another director, this could have just been a straightforward biopic.
100%.
Where this now is like, this
felt like a celebration.
This is like a feature-length commercial, but Baz Luhrmann is the best at making you feel. Yeah. And that's what's so cool. Like, he does such a good job of using different music from different time periods because he's going to make you feel like what the emotion was. This is what the memory of that feels like. And that's what's so cool.
It was that hayride sequence for me right in the beginning of the film that when that clip came out, it sold me. I was like, this movie is going to be so cool. And the fact that emotion is how I felt. Like when I saw Austin Butler dancing up there, I was like, I was getting feverish because it was so captivating. There was just so much love put in this movie. The music is fantastic, and I love that he blended it with the new age hip hop alongside Elvis's music because it kept it fresh. We could have totally gotten a very sad, very long 4 hours. In the movie's also almost 3 hours long. You don't feel it.
You don't feel
the pace of this movie at all because it is moving so fast. It doesn't spend too long on any moment. And again, my only, I guess, critique for this film and like the only thing that kind of made me go, was Tom Hanks as Colonel Tom Packer. Because Tom Hanks, and I love Tom Hanks, but it's just his voice was still Tom Hanks with an accent.
With a bit of a Dutch accent, right?
And it doesn't hit, but does it ever ruin the film? Not even close.
No.
It doesn't even distract you enough to make you go, oh, this is bad. But this movie just kills it. It is absolutely phenomenal. I had so much fun watching it, and I cannot wait to see it again.
This movie also, like when you think of Elvis and you think of his later years, especially Vegas, and you think of Vegas in the 70s and the 60s, where it's just lights, like it lights flashing and slot machines and glitter and just show and
shirts.
It's like, this is what this movie is. That's what this movie embodies, is that feeling.
It's Vegas.
Of being in Vegas. And like you feel that. And especially the scenes of them in Vegas performing, you're just like, this is like watching it, especially on a movie theater screen and seeing how big it felt.
Oh yeah.
This wouldn't be the same if you watched it at home.
This is a theater film.
This movie reminded you, like there's been a lot of we've been blessed with some amazing movies this year.
Yeah.
And I think 2022 is going to go down as one of the best years.
It seems like a 2019 again.
Yeah, like one of the best years for films in the sense of the amount of films that we already have. If I look at my top 10 of this year, and I saw that from any other year, that would be like a list you would see maybe at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And we're 5.5 months into the year. You know what I mean? Like we've been crazy with the movies we've been getting. And this is a movie that reminds me why I love watching movies at the theater.
Yeah.
Because you are just seeing Elvis and you're seeing the show, and it feels like you're being transported to a time where this was happening. And it's like this I felt transported.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this. Like I felt like I was watching history.
This movie felt like I paid for an Elvis concert and I got more than I needed for it.
I wonder if we'll ever see an Elvis like hologram show, because I feel like we've
there was
seen
an ABBA one recently.
There was the ABBA one recently, which it looked a little hokey. Some shots looked cool.
Some shots look cool. Yeah.
And I always think of the Elvis scene in Blade Runner 2049 as well too.
Yep.
But like there are some artists that their music will never leave us. You know, when I think of the Michael Jacksons, I think of the Beatles, and obviously Elvis. And you know, when you have a movie like this, especially, I think this movie helps keep these people around. This movie keeps them top of mind and keeps their magic alive with us. Right?
I think Baz should do a Michael Jackson film next.
I mean, I think Baz would be.
Yeah.
I think Baz is such a great pairing with musicians.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
and music.
like music and filmmaking is we'll say a nest together.
Yeah.
Baz Luhrmann does it. Like, he's so good.
So
Yeah.
good.
So good. One other thing I wanted to mention is this is not your traditional biopic in the sense that when you get into this film, you're not watching it from, as Elvis is born type.
Yeah,
of
it's
thing.
not linear.
It's not it's totally not linear. It's you're thrown into a lot of flash forward sequences, flashback sequences, but it's so well taught and it's very heavily edited. Like I would be, if I was the editor on this film and I had to stitch this story together, it must have been like,
You need a shot of an adrenaline
you
before
need
you
to be on
start. Yeah.
cocaine.
Yeah.
Like
They
you're
were
taking
doing lines of
cocaine.
coke, for
They were,
sure.
yeah.
To cut this
All right, what are
film.
we editing right now? Let's do it.
Off the keys.
Because that's what it felt like. You felt like you were that electrified
Yeah.
getting into it.
And that's a good thing. You
Yeah.
know, like again, I don't even know where you begin as Baz Luhrmann. Like, where does this, like, when he's working on the script, when he's shooting this, when you're working on the edit, because it's like Anthony said, this is not a traditional film. This is such a concept piece. Like, this is just such like a concept film where you're just like, okay, we're gonna start in Vegas, and then the light's gonna turn into like a missile. And the missile's gonna turn into an eyeball. Then it's gonna explode, and then everything's gonna reverse. And we're gonna end up back in the hotel, and you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But you're just, all you know is that you're entertained and you're being transported, and it's so damn cool. This movie is so cool.
This movie never holds your hand. It just pulls you.
Yeah.
It just keeps grabbing you and
Let's
taking
go.
you wherever you want to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Let's get to our final recommendations.
I
'cause
genuinely
think
feel like we could talk about this movie for
we can.
hours
We
and
could just
hours.
keep going. Yeah.
But I feel like people are like, we get it now.
We get it.
We get it.
The movie's good.
You liked it? You guys liked it?
Let's get to our final recommendations. Anthony, I'm going to get you to start us off.
This is a real gem for me.
I love it.
So this is my third
love
real
it.
gem because I gave Top Gun a real gem.
Yeah.
After
What
watching
else did you give a real gem?
After
the
watching
Batman.
The Batman.
this year.
Oh, is it 3 gems in a year, eh?
gems.
Did you give Top Gun a real gem? I gave it a real gem.
I didn't because
Afterwards though, it's a
because
real
I
gem.
felt like my experience was not, I didn't get the best experience because of the people around me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So when I went to watch it again, I think I mentioned in one of our episodes.
Yeah, you upgraded to the real
Yes.
gem. Yeah.
But I like this more than Top Gun, and I
Woo!
like this.
Wow.
I like this more than Batman.
Wow.
Hey,
it
man,
just-
Warner Bros. Is smiling no matter what.
It just made me happy. Like it just,
Yes.
it was a very good movie. Like I really liked it, especially for someone I don't necessarily listen to a lot and like really cared about his history. This will make you want to go learn more about Elvis
Yes.
and like
Yeah.
watch. Like today, I put on one of the specials that he did in the movie, and I wanted to compare it to
The movie?
The actual performance
the
that he
actual
did, yeah.
performance. So I wanted to do a side by side, and just it's stuff like we weren't around when he was
Yeah.
alive, and we weren't around. Like even I wasn't around when he died. Like he died before even the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a history lesson in a sense.
It is,
And
yeah.
You want to learn more about someone who was so far ahead of his
Yeah.
game.
Elvis was a pioneer.
Yeah.
Right, and when you think of like I said earlier in this review, when you think of how the merch and the fandom and the shows and like all of that stuff really started then.
Yeah.
Right, with the commercialization of
Artists.
and art and movies and music, and also TV at the time. And at that time you have 2 or 3 channels maybe, right? And so when you have a special, when you're doing a special and you're in people's homes, the world is watching. Like the whole country is watching, and I think that's why what this movie also does really well is seeing that people being upset of like, what? Look at the trash that's being shown in my home. This guy shaking his legs like that, which is so
It's
tame.
how far we've
by
come.
2022 standards, right? Which is so funny.
Yeah.
Anthony, thank you very much for that. Shay, drop us your recommendation for.
Man, I
Elvis.
was tossing between real gem and watch it, but just hearing you guys talk about it again made me relive that moment of watching this movie. And it's a skip it for me. No, no. This is such a damn good movie. It's so cool. I think it deserves a real gem.
Wow, look at that! 2 real gems.
Real gems.
Are we going to make it 3
It's a
for
gem
3?
on his belt, like
That's right.
Yeah, we're a gem
We're
on
a
Elvis's
gem on
belt.
his
gem
belt.
on the, yeah.
We're a
100%.
rhinestone on his back.
that's
What's
that's
a
what I was looking for.
rhinestone?
Rhinestones. Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Any other closing
No, man.
thoughts?
I want this movie to do well. I want
Yeah.
people to see it. I loved it.
you know what? Let's get crazy. Let's get crazy. Let's get nuts. We're going to banish this. No, honestly, we've been talking about this movie for 30 minutes now, and if it wasn't evident enough, we absolutely loved it. This movie is going to be staying on our minds all year. It is beautiful. It is just, I don't know what else to say. It's a real gem, and I'm so glad to go 3 for 3 on this one. What else more can we say at this point? It's great, and I think the best thing about this movie is that it was very much a surprise for us, because I think going into it, it could have gone either way. You know what I mean? So I think to come out on top and to come out as another real gem, this is great news. This is great news, and it's another great movie for you to go check out this week. Again, Elvis releases June 24th in theaters only from Warner Brothers Pictures. I want to say thank you to our friends at Warner Brothers Canada for inviting us to watch this film. And as always, you can catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday. Watch out throughout the week for review episodes or interviews on all the latest movies and series. And make sure you're following us at The Movie Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd. And don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, join our Discord, and write into the show at hello@TheMoviePodcast.ca. You can also subscribe to us on youtube.com/TheMoviePodcast. Check out our show notes for all of those links and more. I want to say quickly, if you want to help us support the show, keep the lights and the mics on, check out our links for our bonfire if you want to buy some of our merch. And please go check out our interview with Aman Vellani, Hayden Christensen, Deborah Chow, Alan Yang, and Matt Hubbard. We've been having a great week on the show, and we have more special guests coming. So don't miss it. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.